Hello friends, I hope you all are doing wonderful. I, CA Pujan Kapadia, welcome you all on my today's lecture of the subject Financial Management. As you all are well aware that we had commenced with the chapter of Introduction of Financial Management, under which we have covered various topics till date. The topics that we have already covered till now include the first one was meaning and definition. The major focus was sources of funds and utilization of funds. Second was nature of financial management, which was basically talking about what all are the characteristics of financial management. Like financial management is a universal, it is a continuous process, it is related to different disciplines. What are the basic functions, like what is financing, what is investing, and what is dividend decision. Moving ahead, we have discussed how the subject of financial management is being related with the various disciplines. Like first of all, we have studied how the relation is there between finance and economics. Like various macro and microeconomic concepts are directly used at the time of determining and calculating financial management concepts. Then we had studied what is the basic difference between financial management and accounting. Further, we have also discussed how the various concepts of addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, power and exponent, etc. are used at the time of calculation of various financial management fundamentals. At the end, we have set a relation between financial management and other areas of management like production management, materials management, marketing management, and human resource management. At the end, in the last lecture, I have covered you with the topic of scope of financial management, under which we have basically broadly classified the activities or the scope into three different parts. That was financing activities, paisa aayega kahan se. Second was investing activity, where I'm going to use my funds. And third was dividend activities, that is basically to decide after earning how much I'm supposed to retain and how much I'm going to pass on to my shareholders. Friends, I hope all of you are very well clear with all the topics that we have discussed till date in our unit Introduction to Financial Management. Today, we are going to start with a new topic as per your syllabus, which read as Goals of Financial Management. Till now, we have well understood like what is financial management, what is the basic activities that is covered in the financial management. Now, it becomes important to know why financial management, what is the main objective, what is the main goal behind studying financial management. So basically, the goals of financial management are broadly classified into two parts, basic and others. As per the new syllabus that you are going to study, we are only supposed to cover this particular part, that is the basic goals in detail. There are two basic goals of financial management. One is profit maximization and another is wealth maximization. So today's lecture is basically going to focus on these two important concepts, like what is the meaning of these terms, what are the points which are in favor, that you can say what are the merits of this term and what are the demerits of this particular concept. But let me state some other advantages, some other goals of financial management, which is not basically a part of syllabus, but let me explain you the points which are written over here. The first point I would mention is I need to ensure that there is a fair return to shareholders. That is, each and every shareholder should earn minimum that amount of return that he should expect from the capital that he has invested in the company. In short, management needs to take optimum care that financing decisions are managed in such a manner, financial management functions are managed in such a manner that at least there is a reasonable return on the capital which is being provided by the shareholder in the company. Second is to ensure that there is sufficient reserve for growth and expansion of the country. I have told you, friends, at the time of financing, I may use my own funds, that is in the form of retained earning. But to have retained earning, I need to earn good amount of profit, right? So at the time of taking financial decisions, I need to consider that I should be left with a good amount of reserve so that I can utilize the amount of reserves for the growth and expansion of my company. Next point is maximum operational efficiency. That is the efficiency, the capability with which the managers are performing the task, the employees are doing their business should be at the optimum level. You should be able to generate more output in the same amount of input. That is basically what efficiency is all about. For example, if I'm manufacturing one unit in 1 hour, I should be capable of enough to produce 2 units in 1 hour. In short, what I should do is I should increase the efficiency in my operations. How can I do it? With the help of modernization, with the help of latest technologies, and with the help of proper planning. So at the time of taking financial decisions, I need to consider the main objective of increasing operational efficiency. And the last part is ensure financial discipline. It is basically talking about that any activity that you are incurring in your company with respect to funds, it may be sourcing of funds, it may be utilization of funds, or it may be management of earnings. Each and every activity should follow a proper financial discipline. You should not do anything haphazardly. There should be a proper plan for each and activity which is being done by you. So basically, friends, these are the other goals, subsidiary objectives, you can say, of financial management. But as I said earlier, our main objective is profit maximization and wealth maximization. So let's start studying that in detail. The first concept that I'm going to take is profit maximization. In this particular slide, I'm going to explain you guys why profit maximization, why it is necessary for a business to earn profit. It is a simple thing that you already know very well since your childhood, especially from your 11th standard business studies. But let's refresh all the points which are mentioned over here. So just understand the topic what we are studying. Why profit? Why is the profit necessary for the business? First point I've written over here is if I'm earning good amount of profit, I can meet all the cost, all the expenses, and can provide funds for my growth. So the first help that profit is doing to me is it is helping me out to meet all my expenses and meet all my costs. And secondarily, it is helping me to provide funds for the growth of the business. Second is, as you all are well aware, how efficiently you are doing your business, how in a better way you are doing your business is being determined by the profit. Company with higher profits are supposed to be said to be more efficient. Third point is to measure firm's performance. For example, let's take and assume that there are two companies, company A and company B, having same amount of paid up capital of let's say 1 crore rupees. That is a total investment in the business. Now, if company A is earning the profit of 1 lakh rupees and company B is earning the profit of 10 lakh rupees, one is earning 1 lakh and one is earning 10 lakh. Which company is supposed to perform in a better manner? Of course, your answer would be, sir, it's company B. Why? Because it is showing higher amount of profits on its book against the same amount of capital invested. So friends, profit is a measure to measure the performance of the firm. Next point is to provide protection against risk. For example, suddenly there comes a situation of any pandemic, like as of now we are facing COVID-19. There may be the chances that business may shut down. If you are having ample amount of profits earned along with you, you can easily mitigate such kind of risk. You can face the shortage of funds easily. You can tackle the situation in a much more better manner. As a result of which, profits help you out to meet the risk. Last point is to face the market fluctuations. You never know how the market is going to react, right? The product which is in high demand may go out of the demand suddenly. As a result of which, as a business unit, it is your duty to comply with the market fluctuations, to face the market fluctuations in such a manner that your routine business is not disturbed. If you are having sufficient amount of profit earned in your hand, and it becomes easy to change as per the market requirements and to meet the market fluctuations. So basically, friends, this was just a general idea of how profit is helpful to you in your business. I hope I am clear because it was a much simpler topic. Let's move ahead. What all are the points which are supporting the concept of profit maximization? That nahi, profit maximization should be the primary objective of financial management. So let's study what all are the points which are favoring this particular statement. The first point that I have written over here is maximum welfare to the shareholders. It is but natural if you are earning higher amount of profit, at the end, who is going to the final beneficiary of the profits? At the end, it is going into the hands of shareholders. So if I'm earning good amount of profit, if I'm maximizing profit, my shareholders are for sure are going to get benefited. So what is my first point? It maximizes the welfare of the shareholders. Friends, just take a note. I have intentionally underlined certain words so that it becomes easier for you to learn the main word and you can easily frame the points on the basis of the same. Let's move to the next point. The second point is It boosts the confidence of management for expansion and modernization. Now, if I'm not having a single money in form of reserve, do you think I can even think about the expansion and modernization? Answer is definitely no, because in the situation of scarcity of funds, in the situation of lack of fund, it becomes difficult to manage the routine business. So thinking about expansion and modernization is far away a question of a thought. As a result of which, if you are having good amount of profit along with you, it boosts confidence in the management, in board of directors, as a result of which they can take progressive decisions with respect to expansion and modernization. The next point that I've written over here is it attracts the investors to the invest. Now, suppose you are having 1 crore rupees in your hand, you are given two options. Again, the same example. Either you can invest in company A, earning the profit of 1 lakh rupees, or company B, that is earning the profit of 10 lakh rupees. Now, you are having a choice to invest in either of these two companies. What will be your call? Of course, it is going to be company B, because higher the profit, higher is going to be the return on your investment. As a result of which, if I am maximizing my profits, if I am earning good amount of profit, I can easily attract the investors to welcome funds, to park their funds into my own business. Next point I've written over here is, if you are earning good amount of profit, it reflects, it indicates that you are utilizing your funds in an optimum manner. That is, you are neither overutilizing your capital nor underutilizing your capital. You are using your capital in an optimum, that is in the best possible manner you could have used. And last is, it ensures survival during the adverse market conditions. As we have discussed in the previous slide, whenever the market conditions are not favorable, whenever the market you see that it is going against you, at that particular point of time, if you are having a good amount of profit already earned in your hand, it helps you out to survive in the tough times, so that you can come back and fight in the times of prosperity and increase the amount of your profit. So basically, friends, these 5 points are favoring the concept of profit maximization. Like, no, profit maximization should be the main objective of financial management. So these are the points in the favor of this particular concept of profit maximization. I hope I am clear with this particular point. Still, I'm giving you a minute. Take a quick look on the points that I am written over here. Over here. Well, friends, I hope the topics which I have written over here are far more clear to you. Let's move ahead to the next slide. Now, this slide is basically going to talk about the points which are against the concept of profit maximization. So you can say these all are the demerits of profit maximization of concept. Let's see the first point. What they are saying is, this concept is a vague concept. Vague means unclear, which means if I'm talking about profit, what I'm talking about is, in order to achieve good amount of profit, to be a goal of my financial management, I should maximize my profit. But which profit am I talking about? Am I talking about profit before tax or profit after tax? This question remains unanswered. So basically what they're trying to say over here is, there is no proper clarity in the concept of profit maximization, because you don't know you are aiming at which profit, profit before tax or profit after tax, or the profit that is available to equity shareholders. There is no proper clarity on that particular part. Second, and the most important point, as you can see, I have bolded this particular point. This is the very point which actually gives rise to the next concept that we are going to study, with the name of which is wealth maximization. What is the limitation of profit maximization? It ignores time value of money. Friends, this is the most important word that you guys need to remember, which is going to be useful in almost all the financial decisions calculation. It is useful in this theory also. You may be studying the chapter of capital budgeting. Under the various calculations of under various techniques, again the same concept of time value of money is going to be useful. So It is of utmost importance when we are dealing with the subject of financial management. Now let's understand quickly what do you mean by time value of money. I'm just going to say one statement. आज का एक रुपया कल के एक रुपये के बराबर नहीं है. Now let's give me the example. What I would say is आज का एक रुपया कल के एक रुपये के बराबर नहीं है. Now let's take an example. Before 3 months, if I go to petrol pump to tell him that fill 1 liter of petrol, what he'll tell is, sir, 1 liter petrol costs 65 rupees. This was the scenario 3 months back. Fine, I'm just taking an approximate example so that I can explain you the concept. Now, with the same amount, that is today, if I go to the petrol pump and say him, please fill petrol of rupees 65 in my car, what he'll say is, sir, इसमें तो सिर्फ 0.8 liters ही आएगा. Now just imagine, I am giving the same amount to him. पहले भी I was giving 65 rupees. Now also I am giving him 65 rupees. But previously, before 3 months, I was getting 1 liter of petrol at the cost of 65 rupees. But now I am only able to gain 0.8 liters of petrol in the cost of 65 rupees. So the money that I am paying him is the same. पहले भी I was paying 65. Now also I am paying him 65 rupees. But the product that I am receiving against him, the quantity that I was receiving against it is decreasing gradually. So the purchasing power of my money is gradually decreasing. This is basically the crux, the statement that I told you. आज का एक रुपया कल के एक रुपये के बराबर नहीं है. Fine, because the value, the purchasing power of that 1 rupee is definitely going to reduce. As a result of which, whenever we are talking about financial management, we are basically focusing on the forecasting part, that is about the future. If I am earning 100 rupees today, it is not equal to 100 rupees after a year. The value of those 100 rupees is going to definitely fall. As a result of which, it becomes inevitable, it becomes necessary to factor this particular fall in the value of money. This is basically the concept of time value of money. That is, what I'm going to consider is, I'm not going to consider the absolute value. For example, if I say I'm going to earn 100 rupees after a year, so it is not equal to 100 rupees. The value, the purchasing power is basically going to fall. As a result of which, I need to factor that with a particular present value factor. We are going to deal with this particular topic in the latter part of this chapter, fine, in upcoming videos. As a result of which, I am not going in much detail as of now, but what you guys need to understand over here is, आज का एक रुपया कल के एक रुपये के बराबर नहीं है. So you need to factor this out. So what we are going to do is, you are going to take a particular rate of interest that you can say it is an inflation rate, and I am going to consider the present value factor, and I am going to adjust the 100 rupees that I am going to earn next year with that particular factor. I hope I am getting clear. The only thing you need to remember is, time value of money is the most important concept which is supposed to be considered at the time of taking any decision with respect to financial management. And the concept of profit maximization totally ignores the concept of time value of money. As a result of which, this is again a demerit of this particular concept. Let's move forward. The third point I've written over here is, cannot be justified in monopoly market. You all are well aware that if it is a monopoly market, then we basically talk that there is only one supplier. And if there is only one supplier in a market, definitely he is only the person who is going to earn the profit. So when it comes to measuring the performance in a monopoly market, it is not actually justifiable. As a result of which, the concept of profit maximization fails to measure of efficiency, to measure your performance in monopoly market. Next point is, it implies exploitation of employees, customers, and society. What is the main target? To increase profit. Now, in order to earn more profit, you may cut the salaries of your employees. You may provide products to the customers either of low quality or at a higher prices. As a result of which, what you are doing, guys, you are exploiting your stakeholders in form of employees, customers, and society at large. Next point is, this concept totally ignores the future risk. See, whenever I'm preparing my balance sheet, what I'm focusing about is the data that I have already incurred, the transactions that I have already incurred. I am not basically focusing about what risk I'm going to face in future. So again, two important points. One was time value of money, and second was future risk. And the last point over here is, it attracts the competition and government interference. It is if you are earning a good amount of profit, then it is definitely going to attract the competition. More competitors will coming into the business, as a result of which your margin that which you are earning the profit would definitely going to fall. And more taxes is going to definitely attract the consumer government. They'll come forward for taxation purpose. So definitely the interference of government is also going to increase in this particular scenario. I hope I am clear with the points that I have stated over here. Just take a quick overview on all the points that I have mentioned over here. Fine, friends. I hope I am clear with the points I have stated. So let's move ahead to the next topic. The next concept that we are going to study over here is the concept of wealth maximization. Now, profit maximization was basically focusing about that you need to earn higher amount of profit. But this concept had certain limitations like future risk were ignored, well, time value of money was ignored, as a result of which we are jumping on a new concept, name of which is wealth maximization. First of all, let us understand what is wealth. Wealth is equal to assets employed for generation of future wealth. That is, whatsoever I am employing to generate further wealth is basically the definition of wealth. So what I am focusing about is I'm not focusing about on earning a particular amount of profit. What I'm focusing about is I want to increase the overall wealth, overall value of my business. So the main focus over here is not to earn merely a good amount of profit, but to increase the entire valuation of the business. It is basically your wealth. Now, what helps you to increase the wealth? Answer is NPV, net present value. You are going to study this particular topic in detail in your chapter of capital budgeting, that is long-term decision making. But since there is a mention over here, I would like to explain you in brief. What is NPV, net present value? The formula is written over here. It reads as present value of cash inflows. Highlight the word present value. Fine. So what I'm doing is all the cash inflows that I'm going to earn from a particular project, I'm converting all those values into the present value. So I'm taking into consideration the time value of money minus present value of cash outflows. So what I'm doing is a simple formula, present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. The resultant answer is going to be NPV. Now it's a simple logic. If the total present value of cash inflow is more than the present value of cash outflow, you are going to get positive NPV. If the answer is positive, it is definitely going to increase your wealth because at the end you are getting something, you are earning something out of the project. But if the NPV is negative, then your wealth is going to decrease. As a result of which, as a financial manager, we are supposed to accept the project with the positive NPV and we are supposed to reject the projects with the negative NPV. I hope I am clear with the concept of net present value, which is again we are going to deal in detail in the chapter of capital budgeting. Next point I have written over here is wealth maximization concept considers future risk and time value of money. As you can easily see, we are talking about present value and not the absolute current value. As a result of which, we are considering both the aspects which were left out in the concept of profit maximization. Next is what is wealth? So from the viewpoint of formula, I can say number of total outstanding shares multiplied by my market price per share. For example, my shares are listed on the stock exchange. Now I am having in total 100 shares outstanding. So total number of shares are 100. The market price at which my share is traded is rupees 10. So basically what is my total wealth? 100 shares multiplied by 10 rupees per share. So answer is 1000. The entire wealth of my business is rupees 1000. So how can I calculate my wealth? Number of outstanding shares multiplied by market price per share. And the last word is this concept basically focuses on increasing the wealth and welfare of the shareholders. There it was like increasing the profit of the shareholders. Here it is basically increasing the wealth for the shareholders. So what I want to increase, I want to increase the overall capital with which I'm doing the business. So I want to generate wealth out of my wealth. I hope you are getting this particular term. So important points over here was, first, NPV. What is the formula of NPV? What does NPV indicates? Positive NPV and negative NPV. Second is, what is the formula of wealth as per market price? Fine. So these were the important points on this particular slide. Now let's talk about what are the positive points about wealth maximization concepts. What are the points in favor of this concept? Now we'll look it quickly because we have already covered it in the first slide. First is, it considers the time value of money concept. The concept of time value of money is being considered in this particular concept. Second is, it takes care of interest of all the stakeholders. So it is not like that I am exploiting my employees, I am exploiting my customers, as it was in the case of profit maximization. In this particular case, my optimum goal is to increase the wealth of the stakeholders, as a result of which I am not doing exploitation of any of the class of the society, is a result of which I am taking care of interest of all the stakeholders. Third is, I am considering the impact of future risk. If I am supposed to face something in future, I am taking due consideration of the same. I am discounting that particular factor at the time of calculation of my wealth, as a result of which each and every future risk that I am going to project are being duly taken care of in the concept of wealth maximization. Next is, implies long run survival. What I'm focusing about is building wealth, then earning normally yearly profit. So I'm thinking on a long term basis and not on a yearly basis, as a result of which I'm ensuring that I can survive in a long period of time. Fine. Going concern concept. Basically, I'm looking forward for coming 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and I'm planning my finance in such a manner that I can easily stand against all the abnormal circumstances that may come forward. Now, if my survival is ensured for a long period of time, my creditors who are actually lending funds to me on credit will be interested in lending more, because they know the stability of this business is quite good, as a result of which they won't get hesitate to park their funds to lend me. Fine. As a result of which it protects the interest of creditors. And the last point is, it increases the market price of shares. As I told you, what is wealth? Basically, it is increasing the process of creating the wealth. That is, existing wealth is being increased. You are focusing on increasing the existing wealth. So your business valuation, that is the market value of your business, is definitely going to increase if you are following this particular concept. So friends, I hope you are clear with this particular slides also. Yes. So let's move to the last part of today's lecture. That is the points which are against the concept of wealth maximization. You can say they are the demerits. First point is rate of discount. As I mentioned as of now, what we are going to do is we are going to consider time value of money. So we are going to convert all the inflows and outflows in the present value. Now, as I told you, I need a particular rate of discount, a particular rate of interest, which I am going to use as a discounting factor to convert my actual values into the present values. Now, what is the exact rate of discount I am going to use? Now, this is basically determined arbitrarily. That is, there is no proper scientific process in determining this rate of discount. It is subjective in nature. For example, if I am the finance manager, I would feel that it should be like 7%. If you are the financial manager, you will feel, sir, it should be 6%. So from person to person, this estimation differs. So you cannot get the exact measure which is applicable to each and every thing. Hence, the rate of discount factor is basically of a subjective nature. Now, critics say, so basically, सब अच्छा होगा फिर भी लोग तो कुछ कहेंगे. Fine. As a result of which, there are two additional limitations as लोग तो कुछ कहेंगे. First point is, wealth maximization is not possible without profit maximization. If I'm focusing on increasing the wealth of my shareholders, it is inevitable that I need to increase my profit. So पहले क्या आएगा? Profit maximization, and then only I can reach to the wealth maximization. It is basically true up to certain extents, as a result of which we cannot ignore the concept of profit maximization. We need to consider that concept also. And second is, there is a distinction in a company between shareholders and directors. You are very well aware who is the owner. Shareholders are the owner. But who are the managers? Directors are the managers. Who basically invest? Answer is shareholders. But who basically run the business? Answer is directors. Now there is a separation between this. As a result of which, later, that is directors, will be more focusing on the profit rather than the wealth of the shareholders. Because see, this concept basically talks about increasing the wealth of the shareholders. Now, director is basically concerned on the fees that he is going to earn, on the percentage of the profit he is going to get. As a result of which, the focus of directors may be more on the profit rather than the wealth. I hope, friends, you are clear with the entire points that we have covered in the today's lecture. It was far more clear to you guys. I hope to see you soon in my next lecture with total understanding of the concept that we have covered. This topic, that is profit maximization and wealth maximization, holds a good importance from the viewpoint of your exam also. So I request all of you to prepare this topic in a wonderful manner so that you can easily deal with this concept in your examination. When I'll be providing you the notes, I will also be providing you one slide for the difference between what maximization is and what wealth maximization is. Till then, I hope you all are understanding and enjoying this e-learning platform of learning which has been provided by our college. Stay safe, friends, and I thank you all for your patient listening.